happy to be here today with Patrick Novecosky, the editor of Legatus magazine. Welcome to Voice of the Vatican, Patrick.
Pleasure to be here.
Patrick, what is Legatus? Tell us a bit about its influence in the business world and how it came to be.
Well, I'll make the long story as short as I can because I know we're limited for time. Legatus is Latin for ambassador. It comes from 2 Corinthians 5:20. We're ambassadors for Christ. So that's the origin of the name. Legatus was founded by Tom Monahan. He is also known for founding Domino's Pizza and Ave Maria University, Ave Maria School of Law. And actually, the idea for Legatus happened right here in Rome. In 1997, Tom was invited to a papal audience, an audience with John Paul II. And after receiving communion from the Holy Father, he had the idea for a business organization for Catholic leaders. And when he went back to Michigan, he was in Ann Arbor at the time, he drew up bylaws and kind of what this organization would look like. So in short, it's a membership organization for Catholic business leaders. We exist to help our members to grow in their faith in order that they can fulfill whatever God is calling them to do, to be better business leaders, to be better husbands, to be better wives, to run a more ethically formed company, and then within the church and within the community to discern what their role will be in the new evangelization as well.
How does Legatus envision the role of business leaders in the new evangelization?
Well, business leaders have a great influence. They have an influence in their parish, in their diocese. They have a great influence in their business life. And, depending on the number of employees they have, their influence in their leadership style, how they deal with adversity, their moral decision-making has an influence. The leaders of the business kind of set the bar. And if they're setting it low, then their employees will come up to that level. If they're setting it much higher, their employees will rise to that level. So an ethically run business will thrive in a way that one that isn't run ethically. I always use the example of Enron. It was not an ethically run business and it fell. And it toppled, and it really impacted millions of people because of unethical decisions. If a Legatus member, for example, would have been running that company, and the bar was set here as far as morals and ethical business practices, it wouldn't have fallen because it would have been run in a way that it would make it ultimately successful.
Patrick, some people think that business, ethics, the church, faith don't go together, but that's not at all what Legatus is saying.
No, they have to go together. I think people who study business know that ethically run business are the most successful ones. They're the most stable, the longest lasting, and they'll weather storms that other businesses just won't. So it's a method for them to not only thrive economically, but also to be a positive for all of their employees and all of their stakeholders.
And how does Legatus mold its business leaders? What does Legatus offer to business leaders?
So the organization has about 95 chapters across the United States. We have 2 international chapters, one in Vancouver, Canada, one in Dublin, Ireland. Our members in those chapters meet once a month. They start with the opportunity for confession, rosary, and mass. They have a social hour, and then a dinner and a speaker. And that's really the bread and butter of Legatus, is the monthly membership meeting where members get together, they celebrate the sacraments, and they learn from a speaker who will bring them a deeper understanding of the Catholic faith, what it means to be a Catholic in today's world. We also have a membership magazine, which is what I do. It's monthly, and it exists to reflect the good works of the members back to themselves, and also to give them an idea of what's going on in the world from a Catholic perspective that they're not going to get from the secular news, and uniquely tailored to business leaders, so they're not even getting that from other Catholic publications.
Patrick, would you talk to us about the magazine, a little bit about where it goes, who it goes to reach, that sort of thing?
Well, it goes to all of our members. We have about 6,000 members in Canada, the United States, Ireland, and a few scattered throughout the world, including the Middle East. We also send it to every Catholic bishop in the United States, a number of influential Catholic leaders, people who are typically our speakers at our chapter meetings in these 95 centers. We also send it to the Holy Father and Pope Emeritus Benedict, a number of cardinals at the Vatican who speak English as well, just to keep them up to date on what Legatus is doing and to give them a deeper understanding of who we are and what we do. I mean, ultimately, our only project is our member. People join Legatus not because they're good Catholics necessarily, but because they want to be. They want to deepen their faith. They want to understand what it means to be Catholic and understand their role and what the Church is asking them to do.
Patrick, from a personal perspective, I know that you have written some fabulous stories and interviewed so many interesting people. Would you talk to us a little bit about how you've been inspired by some of the people you've interviewed?
Well, I often say that if fellow journalists, Catholic journalists, knew what I have in my job, that I would be the envy of Catholic journalists around the world. We have some of the most fascinating, gifted people in our membership, and it's a joy to tell their story. And there's never a shortage of good stories to tell. Our September magazine features Tim and Steph Bush, who are California Legatus members. They made a substantial donation to Catholic University of America to build their business school there, which had just been started about 4 or 5 years ago. And now the school has a generous endowment to build the school, and the teachings that are going to be employed in this business school are solidly Catholic. They're going to form new business leaders for the coming decades, and it's going to have a profound influence on the culture in the United States and beyond. And so that's just one example of so many some of our members have founded universities and colleges. They're presidents of universities and colleges. Many of them, even in secular businesses, will take time away from their business to do mission work in Africa. We told the story in July of a member who took 2 weeks and went to Africa with a company that builds wells in poor areas in rural Uganda. And just the change that they're bringing, even at that small level, is ultimately substantial.
Patrick, whose example of virtue has inspired Legatus to exist?
You know, I don't think Legatus would exist without John Paul II. He was intimately aware of our founding back in 1987. 18 months after Legatus was founded, he gave a specific address to Legatus. He gave us a charge. He said, the world needs ethical business leaders, and the Church asks you to fulfill that role with passion. And that's kind of been our calling card for the last 30 years. Legatus will be 30 years old next May. And we've really taken St. John Paul II as our secondary patron after St. Peter, who's the primary patron of Legatus, just to take his charge to Legatus to heart and to live that out every day.
Patrick, thank you so much for being with us.
It's been a pleasure.
Joy to have you. Thank you for sharing your work at Legatus. May God bless your ministry. And thank you for being with Voice of the Vatican.
Pleasure.